with more details on the physical altercation backstage in AEW. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for September 6th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. During the post-All-Out media scrum, AEW champion CM Punk would confirm that he did break his foot during that dive into the crowd. "I did the stage dive, what an idiot. I must have hit my foot on the top of the guardrail, but I didn't feel it. You would think that would hurt, but people caught me, put me back down. I waited for FTR. It just didn't feel right. I thought I just whacked it, but then I wrestled on it, blew a springboard, came off the top with a double axe, did all this. What I eventually did was, yeah, I fractured my foot, but then I pulverized the bone. Surgery was supposed to be an hour. It wound up being 4.5 hours. I got 3 plates and 16 screws in my foot, and I essentially have a new foot now. It is 100%, but it's a new 100%. Every day I rehab. This is the worst injury I've ever had. I was in the bedroom for 2 weeks, and it was really hard for me because I wanted to have this great summer, do good for Tony, sell tickets, draw money and ratings. The rehab, I could tell you how hard and painful and grueling it was, but I wouldn't be able to do it justice. I was doing 2.5 hours of rehab plus, once they told me I could bike, I was biking my life away. Then I would go to the gym later and lift weights. I was trying to bust my ass to hurry up. Not necessarily hurry up to get back, but hurry up and get healthy. If I'm not healthy, I'm no good to anybody. It was really tough. If I was 23, it would have been a hard injury because I literally couldn't do anything. Trying to get around on crutches, up and down stairs, it was pretty bad and depressing. Bobby Fish has been very critical of CM Punk since leaving AEW and continued that trend when he challenged him to a fight on his Undisputed podcast. "Let's just make this a formal invitation to Phil. Yeah, I'm down. If that's the direction he wants to go, I mean, he could pick the time, the place, we can do it in Chicago. Yeah, that would be kind of fun, right? It can be boxing, it can be kickboxing, it can be MMA. I mean, we can do this bare knuckle. Whatever sounds good to Phil. He can pick the weight, he can pick the place like I said. I mean, whatever he wants to do, but yeah, let's make it official. Like, come on, Phil." Talking about Punk's kicks, he said, "Oh, they are atrocious." Well, you said what you heard on the sheets was he came out throwing haymakers. He didn't come out throwing kicks because he ain't hitting anybody with those. Reacting to CM Punk's post-all-out comments during the media scrum, Eric Bischoff blasted the AEW champion on ad-free shows as he said it's so whiny. Like, it's just, why do I have to get up here and address this, you know? This is like high school stuff, and obviously something clearly Phil this has left some scar tissue, and I get that. Disappointed. Feels betrayed possibly. Who knows? I don't know what the story was and who did what to who. It doesn't really matter, but at some point you got to let that go. You can't let it get in the way of how you're perceived as a character. Here's a guy who's supposed to be a babyface, whining. He's whining. Like, if my 10-year-old came home from school and whined to me like that, I'd grab him by the ear. I'd take him outside, and we'd have a talk about being so whiny. Not a good talk, especially for a babyface. Talking about the return of Braun Strowman to WWE on Raw last night, Vince Russo criticized the comeback on his podcast, saying horrible booking. You're gonna bring back a guy after so long, and he's gonna lay out tag teams that nobody cares about anymore. They could have created a moment for Braun to return with Impact that would have blown the roof off the place. This was not it. I could have cared less if he laid out 8 tag teams. What does that mean? When it comes to an explanation for CM Punk taking shots at Hangman Page at the All Out media scrum, Dave Meltzer recalled Page taking questions from an interview prior, saying on Wrestling Observer Radio, when somebody brought up a question to Page, "What have you learned from CM Punk and Sting?" And he kind of didn't have a good answer. He did sort of say, "I'd listen if they said something," but he also said, "I kind of go on my own and learn by trial and error from my own stuff." And Punk was offended by that and brought it up like, this guy is a know-it-all. I just thought that Page was throwing a question and sheepishly answered it, and Punk got mad because his name was brought up. Punk's got a lot of experience and knows a lot of stuff. You can learn from him if you want to. With a reported altercation taking place behind the scenes following CM Punk's comments about the EVPs, it was said that this got physical, as more details have become available. The Observer said, according to multiple sources that lined up with some of the previous reporting, there was a fight backstage afterward, with Punk allegedly starting things by swinging fist at the Bucks' Matt Jackson. Punk trainer slash friend and AEW producer Steel, part of the storyline that got Punk into Sunday's Jon Moxley match, threw a chair that hit the Bucks' Nick Jackson in the eye. Steel allegedly bit Omega and grabbed his hair. It would be additionally noted that it absolutely 100% it's not a work. I can tell you, there's legal people involved, a lot of legal situations involved, and it can be very messy. I think that's one of the reasons why AEW is not allowed to talk about it. A Steel Punk's friend who appeared on programming previously and works for AEW is apparently set to be let go for his involvement in the altercation, as Fightful said. We're told that A Steel shoot cracked Nick Jackson with a chair, with another person saying they think he's lucky to not be in jail. Several sources in AEW that we spoke with said that they believe Ace Steel will not be back in the company after this incident. PW Insider has also noted Steel's wife was said to have been around, caring for Punk's dog. The story of Nick Jackson having a black eye came from Steel throwing a chair at him. Following this reported altercation, Sean Ross Sapp has provided reports on reactions to this from those in WWE. There were numerous WWE talent that reached out to Fightful to get the notes of what all went down, as well as details behind the skirmish at AEW All Out. A top WWE star said they believe that the CM Punk that they knew years ago is being highlighted. Another WWE talent said that if it was a work, it was one of the most elaborate works they've ever seen. A third talent said much of the same. If this Punk press scrum thing is a work, bravo. Both had contacted Fightful before Raw and said that they learned individually it wasn't a work and expressed surprise that it even happened. There was confusion from both of those as to why Tony Khan would not comment in the follow-up about Punk bashing the EVPs, and not provide clarity regarding the people who launched the company with him. You can't expect a lot of people here to have a lot of positive things to say about Punk, and I think he's aware of that and has probably come to peace with it. One talent who worked with Punk in the past said, "I feel like he's trying to run things there, and it looks like he's doing it." Another longtime main eventer told us that they considered Punk's actions unprofessional and don't believe he's the company man or leader that he made himself out to be. That same person would call Punk selfish and arrogant. This sentiment was echoed by several we spoke to, including some talent that worked on set with Punk at Fox. Another top WWE name told us that if the parties involved don't put their issues aside and make money with it, that none of them have business talking about drawing houses or losing fans or interest. They have a good show, but this is still the biggest piece of business they've done, and they have to capitalize. When asked about the idea of splitting up as a tag team, the Street Profits revealed they never considered doing so, as Montez Ford told Inside the Ropes. "Honestly, don't understand, man. I think the first time I heard about it was an interview, maybe last week, the week before last. Dang, man. Both of us are just staying focused on the task at hand. We don't have the Raw Tag Team Championships anymore, which we never lost. We're trying to regain back the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, trying to accomplish something we never did before, which is win the Undisputed Tag Team Championships." Angelo Dawkins would add, "We've been brothers since NXT, so it means a lot. The New Day are still together, but they've also had their little singles runs, but they've also had each other's back no matter what. So we're brothers at the end of the day." With NXT UK being shut down for future NXT Europe plans, many UK stars were released by WWE. Talking about being let go during this time, Mark Andrews said on his podcast, "As you know, I was in the process of moving house, and I'm getting married 2 days before Clash at the Castle too, so normally, moving house, having a kid, and getting married is something where you do one of those in a year. So it's been a hectic month, really crazy, and to be honest, it feels like I've won 3 and I lost 1. That's how it feels. It's still 3-1, Mandrew's world. So genuinely, I'm in a pretty good place. When it actually happened, I essentially just sat there waiting for a call. There was a big group call that kind of hinted at that a few people might be losing their jobs. And then the boys group chat, one by one, I've been released, yeah, me too. And the thing is, when it comes to being a professional wrestler, and especially when you're working for a bigger company like WWE, you do expect these things. I remember Drake Maverick saying to me years ago when I first signed with TNA, he said it's not what you make it, it's what you save. And that's gotta be your mindset being a pro wrestler, because these things happen. It's the same thing as American football players, for example. They get drafted from team to team, and they just get let go. So it's kind of the nature of the business. So that is something I've been prepared for. There's been numerous occasions in the last 6 years of working for the company where I felt I was going to get released. This one actually surprised me. All the other times I was like, we were on our way out. And this time I was like, oh, 2 weeks before the big Welsh show? That's weird timing. Surely this should have been a year ago. That's the bit that stings. Because genuinely, I don't feel ill will towards the company for letting us go. NXT UK ending, there's a time period between NXT UK and NXT Europe. I do see why it makes sense, but it does sting that it's 2 weeks before the only stadium show in Wales to ever happen, the biggest show in British history to ever happen. So to really put that into perspective, it's not just like, oh, we're Welsh. For me, it's like I've pretty much wrestled in every other venue in Cardiff. That would be the one to get off the list. And I guess that's where it gets a little bit confusing, because me, Flash, Wild Boar, and Eddie were really close friends in real life as well as wrestling. And we all said a year ago, if any of us get on this, that's the most important thing. All the years of putting the work in Wales, it just would have been lush if one of us could have had the moment to be celebrated. Being released I can take. It's the wrestling business, this stuff happens. But the Welsh show, this is something that might not ever happen again. So that's the bit which hurts. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.